Broadcasting from the heart of the Colorado Rockies, it's 4th and 99 with your hosts, David Slade, Keith Brookman, and Matt Staffiero. Now let's talk football here on 4th and 99.
Hey, good evening, sports fans. Welcome back to another amazing show, and thanks for tuning in to 4th and 99 here at the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, where we talk all things Broncos with a little NFL sprinkled in. I am your host, David Slade, and with me, as always, is Matt Staffiero and Keith Brugman. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Doing well.
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's hump day, like as Dave usually says when he come on Wednesday.
There you go.
I even forgot it's hump day, man. It's been a weird week. I woke up this morning. I told my wife, I'm like, is today Friday? It feels like a Friday for some reason. And my wife,
I'd be okay with a Friday.
Oh, I would too. My wife rained on my parade and said, no, it's not Friday.
I wish it was Friday.
It's Wednesday.
It's only Wednesday. It is only Wednesday.
But next week, I only have a 3-day work week, which is nice. So I'm off Monday, Tuesday at work. I'm taking Wednesday off because we're taking our granddaughter to the Nutcracker Ballet. And then I'll work Thursday, and then I'll be off Friday for Christmas. So it'll be nice. What are you guys' plans for Christmas? Anything exciting? Keith?
Go ahead, Keith. Go first.
Well, I should have went to you because for me it's a pretty laid back. We might even be putting in an hour or two on Christmas Eve at work, and then it's just in the morning. One of the kids has to work early in the day, so we're going to start everything up Christmas Eve, and then obviously into Christmas Day, and just kind of traditional celebration. How about good old Matt?
Oh man, I'm gonna be all over the place. A lot like, Thanksgiving. It's gonna be one Christmas in Pueblo, one Christmas with the in-laws, one Christmas here in Denver. I don't get any presents, so
Dude,
the kids are spoiled.
Matt, you have to hate this time of year between Thanksgiving and Christmas. All the running around you do.
It is constant travel. So
your mechanic probably loves it though. All the miles you're putting on your vehicle. So even our buddy Lawrence here thought it was Thursday already. So
it feels like it's Thursday.
See, I'm not the only one who's all messed up. So
I guess we shouldn't have thought it was Friday. If not, we would have missed the Thursday night football game, right?
That is true, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, well, we hope it's going to be good. It's building up to be a good one, and we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end when we do our picks. And Matt even reminded me we got 3 picks we have to make tonight because we have 2 Saturday games this week. So
busy.
Yeah,
busy
give us something to do on Saturdays now.
That's fine with me, man. I could take NFL football 6, 7, maybe 8 days a week.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to complain at all. So definitely not going to complain. Hey, before we get started, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor, Willow Seasoning and Blends, for sponsoring tonight's show. Check them out at willowseasonings.com and grab a bottle of their fajita seasonings. If you like fajitas, throw it on and put a little spice in your life.
Feliz Navidad.
Yes, Feliz Navidad. All right, gentlemen. Well, we're going to get started with NFL headlines, and it is a little crazy right now. I mean, COVID is just going nuts. I think in the last 2 days, is it, Matt? Monday and Tuesday, 75 positives.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is. It's right near there. It was the 37 in one day, and I believe it was like 32 in the following day. So it's just a little under that 75, but still, there's a total of 75 right now, though.
Yeah, and we got a little graphic here just to show you guys. I mean, we got 5 teams that have at least 5 players in, and me and Keith were talking about this before we came on the air, and I think Keith has even seen some increased numbers that these numbers are already changing. Have you seen anything, Keith?
Yeah, just a few. Probably the biggest one we don't have on there. Well, I'll just kind of run through some of ours that we have on there.
Okay.
Looks like we have Washington football players, or Washington football team at 12 players. I've seen it increase to 15.
Wow.
Cleveland at 11 on our map. We're now at 14 there. The Rams actually decreased by one from what I saw. They went from 11 to 10. The Lions was the big one that I saw. They now have 8 players on the COVID-19 list. The other ones that you have listed, I don't have updates on. Vikings at 7 and Bears at 5 for those just tuning in on audio only.
Yeah, and this morning, when I looked at this, there were 4 teams that did not have any COVID cases, and Denver was one of them. I'm not sure. I haven't heard of any come out today. Have you heard of any, Matt, for the Broncos today?
I have not.
I think we should just have our lingering let PJ Locke, who was on there, and who else was on there? Malik Reed, and then there was one other. So,
oops, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm going a little crazy here with my clicker. So, and we'll just touch on the really quick on the vaccine rules in case people don't know. But if you're a vaccinated individual and you test positive, then you can get back to work a lot quicker. You just have to have 2 negative tests that are 24 hours apart, at least 24 hours apart. So we went through that with Garrett Bowles a couple weeks ago, and we were all thinking, well, maybe if he tests negative Friday and Saturday, he can play Sunday. And he ended up, I can't remember if he did or not, but he was still out because of an injury. I can't remember. So the guys that are not vaccinated, and this is where it really hurts the teams, is these guys, they have to isolate for 10 days, and that can really hurt the team. And then anybody who's unvaccinated and has been in close contact, they have to do a 5-day quarantine period. So it can really spread rapidly throughout your team, So
yeah, I think the biggest instance we've seen right now is going to be Cleveland, and they are at risk for being the first team to possibly succumb to the new NFL rule. Is if you can't supply enough players to play, you will forfeit. They're not going to move games around. There's not going to be any postponement, and the NFL has already stated they're not moving the game from Saturday. So it is going to be an interesting couple days leading up to Saturday, seeing who can get healthy. It's going to be tough because including some people on that Cleveland list is Baker Mayfield. It's their head coach Kevin Stefanski. I don't know if they're going to be able to get 2 negative COVID tests between now and Saturday.
Almost impossible, from what I understand. They really expect them to be out. So,
yeah, it's going to be a huge impact on several teams this weekend, and as it just continues to spread. And it's not like it's just in the NFL. The NBA is having problems with increased numbers. Just the general population's having, problems with increased numbers. So
I saw an interesting question being brought up, though. What if it's not your total players that you can't dress, but what if it's a position group? What if it's an offensive line where you have 4 or 5 starting offensive linemen go down and 3 behind them?
They're going to have to plug and play.
I guess they would have Hinton playing left tackle, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
might have more success. I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't know, but they are not going to be backing down from this. They didn't back down for Denver when we ran out of quarterbacks last year. It doesn't sound like they are going to be making any exceptions this year. They're holding them to strict COVID guidelines, as Dave brought up there. One of the more strict out of the the big 4 of the sports. They're one of the stricter policies. You were speaking NBA just a couple days ago. The Bulls had to postpone 2 games due to a COVID outbreak. So,
right.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing though in that scenario though is the player safety, right? If we're out few quarterbacks because we put COVID trackers in the corners and decide to sit together, that's one thing. I mean, it's if you go on the other side of things and it's your offensive line. I mean, there's a lot of people can get seriously hurt on the field if your offensive line. It's tough enough to plug and play with guys on your roster, let alone if you're looking for guys on the street. especially if you can get called out 24 hours within 24 hours of a game. That's critical, right?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I mean, and Matt brought up the Bulls rescheduling a couple. It's a lot easier for the NBA to shuffle games around because the season's so long. I mean, the NFL, you only have so many weeks to do it, and we saw how it was last year when they were trying to shuffle games around and everything else.
Move bye weeks around and all of that stuff. But now it's so late in the season. It would be dang near impossible to make that happen.
Well, and competition and fairness comes into play when you start doing that as well, right? So
exactly.
Right.
So, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be it's coming at a really tough time because some of the teams that you're mentioning, that there's major playoff implications that are on the line. So I know that's going to ruffle some feathers. I mean, look at Cleveland being the one. They lose, they're going to drop. They're losing their spot essentially, pending what happens with a few other teams, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But Vikings, they're in the mix for the playoffs. The Rams in the mix for the playoffs. WFT has not been eliminated yet either. So every single team there, this could have major implications with them having, that's a lot of players, 11, 12, 5. And then you said that some of these numbers have grown, correct, Keith?
Yes, a few of them are already growing. So,
and Lawrence asked a question here. Has any player been out for COVID 2 times? And Lamar Jackson has.
And I believe Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, I think this is his second time around as well.
And they're now saying that people who have had COVID before, can get it again. So, I mean,
it's not a one-trick pony, unfortunately.
No, not anymore. And they're even saying vaccinated people can still, get it. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this works its way out over the next couple of weeks. And I think we all expected to have an uptick, just sort of like the flu season, once November, December timeframe rolled around, we expected to see increases in numbers, and now you're seeing them throughout the NFL.
I think the biggest thing is I think, the NFL Players Association, well, I'll also say owners meetings is happening right now, but the NFL Players Association has been asking for more and more testing ever since the current protocol came out. Originally, it was once every 2 weeks if you're a vaccinated player. Now it's once a week. NFL Players Association is calling for daily testing at this point. Their once a week testing is on Tuesday, or the day after the game, I should say. It's on Monday. So you could obviously be playing, and like many have pointed out, I mean, if you're out there and you're playing for your contract and you're making sure that the guy behind you isn't creeping up and taking your position, you come in with the sniffles on Sunday, you're playing on Sunday.
Right.
So there's plenty of guys that are already out there playing. Daily testing is really what we need to get back to if we're going to really nip this in the bud. It can't be just once a week, and it can't be after the game has already been played.
And I agree, because you have guys that are asymptomatic too.
Correct.
That may not have any symptoms at all, and they're out there playing, and they can spread it as well. So daily testing probably is the answer. Unfortunately, I think this is a way of life for a while.
Correct.
So all right, let's move on from COVID talk, and let's talk about another disaster that's brewing. The Washington football team. And let's look at this question from Lawrence really quick.
All right, sounds good. Let's see it.
All right. I wonder if it affected them the same or less, but instead of testing, we should be focusing on being able to get these players the right medication and better soon and back on the field. So,
and to dive into the medical side of this a little bit, it is so hard to combat that. I mean, you could take vitamins, you could do all these things, take natural supplements to try to build your immune system. But the hardest thing is COVID is it's a virus. So there's no real medication to kill bacteria, things like that at least that's came out yet. So it's going to be tough to combat it. It's really just waiting it out. And it's so crazy because you could be on your deathbed or you could be talking like you and I right now. It's such a wide spectrum illness right now. It's just craziness.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, all right, Washington football team. What a disaster. I mean, so we saw the fallout with John Gruden, from the Washington football team probe, and 650,000 emails and the only bad ones in there are John Gruden's, apparently. so John Gruden has filed a lawsuit now against, I believe, the NFL and the Washington football team.
Yeah. And I believe Roger Goodell's in there as well.
Yeah, I think Roger Goodell is individually mentioned in there. Now today comes out that Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington football team, tried to interfere with an investigation with a former employee that had settled a sexual harassment lawsuit. Keith, when does the NFL step in and say, enough is enough here? I mean, Dan's already been removed from day-to-day operations and the wife is running the show, but when does the NFL just finally say enough is enough? You guys need to sell this.
It's amazing to me for that organization and Dan Snyder and you said something terrible is brewing in Washington, and my thought was, for how long, Dave? For how long? Right. You know, they've had issue after issue. It's basically a scandalous football team, right? I don't know what it's going to take for the NFL to step in and say, okay, that enough is enough. I think it's going to have to be larger than what we're talking about right now. Maybe it's tied to those emails, because quite honestly, once litigation starts hitting you and you're starting to take it as the NFL and you're starting to take it as Roger Goodell, that'll probably force some changes. But unfortunately, I don't think the latest leak of this blocking of an investigation on a sexual harassment lawsuit is enough to probably spark anything. Again, Roger Goodell works for the NFL owners, and the NFL owners are pretty tight-knit group. It's tough to sway them. So
yeah, and Matt, Congress has started a subcommittee that's looking into this. You know, there could be people testifying in front of Congress. I mean, what kind of fallout do you see once this happens and all this stuff comes out into the public once it gets in front of Congress?
You said the big question right here is if it, the public, when does it get out to the public? Is it even going to be sent out to the public? That's the biggest thing. You got to remember, every single time something happens with owners, it's hush, 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 hush. I mean, look back at the Robert Kraft and the masseuse thing in Florida a couple years ago. It was literally talked about for 2 days, and then there was a little bit of punishment thing down, and it was gone. No one's brought it up again. As Keith said, it's a tight knit group, and Goodell's job is essentially to work with and for these owners. I don't know when things will be, ever held accountable in Washington. I mean, you talk about, the sexual assault claims. Look at Deshaun Watson. He was essentially possibly, potentially blacklisted almost. And it's a similar situation, but just because this is an owner, Goodell and other people turn their eyes, but don't bat it as much. I mean, we look at the emails. There was horrible things being said in those emails that he may or may not have been a part of. There's been multiple sexual assault allegations coming from there. And just the overall way he's ran the franchise, I don't know why the other owners would not be frustrated. I mean, Washington doesn't have a team for several, this is going on 2 seasons now. They don't have there has not been a contingency plan put in place to even name the team. I mean, it just seems like there's just a trickle-down effect from Washington, and I don't know why Goodell nor the other owners would be, beyond frustrated and forced to sell. But like he said, until something major happens, or we get access to these emails, what he was trying to hide, or Congress breaks this open to the public, I don't think anything will happen.
Right. And I don't think anything's going to happen until there's a public outcry, sort of like what happened in Carolina. I mean, the owner was forced to sell, after the racial allegations and everything came out there.
Yeah, so, it's a two-sided coin, though. I mean, let's flip to the other side of the coin real quick and go back to looking at Houston, where I believe the comment was somewhere around the convicts are running the prison now is essentially what unfortunately he's passed away now. What former Houston Texans owner Bob McNair had said on public record. McNair still owns the Texans.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's a very.
It depends on how close you are intertwined in the good old boys network.
It must be. So, something's crazy.
So, I mean, any final thoughts on this topic, Keith?
No, I think we hit the nail on the head. If you're in, you're in, and you're fine. You're probably just fine, unless something really turns up the heat underneath the pan, and that's got to be hitting big in the public. Sexual allegations aren't that big, but at the time with the racial allegations, that came out of the Carolina Panthers was just a big thing. And like you said, Matt hit on the head. Wasn't part of the group.
Right. Matt, one other thing really quick. Do you think maybe after this whole thing with Gruden, airs out, do they remove him and say, okay, yeah, we probably shouldn't have fired you, and yeah, you can coach again?
I mean, it really just depends on, how much is as Lauren says here, they'll settle. I don't think the NFL can handle stuff on oath and record. It really depends on how much is the NFL willing to give Gruden and or to persuade Gruden, like, let's not take this to court, let's not take this to public record. That may be one of them, but at the same time, if you're an NFL franchise, what's out there, that you can't. It's been put on the public record. I don't think he gets another coaching job, even if they say you can come back.
And he may not want to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he would.
Probably just wants, maybe, and I don't know how you clear your name because you're the one who, sent the emails. So it's not like you say, oh, no, these were fake. So, but it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing works out, to watch it and see if Congress really gets involved in this. So, all right, Keith, Buffalo Bills. Boy, what is going on in Buffalo? They're struggling up there.
They are struggling, man. Maybe Josh Allen isn't everything everyone thought he was. I don't know what's going on.
So were you okay drafting Bradley Chubb number 5 instead of Josh?
Exactly. It's all happening just for us to feel better,
I just had to get Matt going.
Do we got to mute you, Dave?
So
no, honestly, it's quite amazing. I thought they were going to be able to run away with it. You didn't see New England being strong to start out the season. They were the ones that were faltering. Now that entire division is completely flipped. Right? We're on the other side of it altogether. New England's starting to run away, and Buffalo is just struggling and needs to start to put themselves together if they want to make a run at this.
No, I agree. I mean. I think that, and me and Matt were talking about this earlier. I mean, it's not like they have a lot of injuries on that team. It would be different, if Stephon Diggs was out, and some other key players but their offense is pretty much healthy. I mean, and they just seem to be struggling to score points.
Mm-hmm.
So, Matt, do you think that all of this, one is it time for Buffalo to just hit the panic button? They're still in contention. I mean, it's not like, but there was just so much aspirations for this team this year that, they're just not living up to the billing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do have to hit the panic button right now. The panic sheet, whatever you want to call this. I mean, they, like you said, they were looked at to be the top dog. In most people, when they were looking at the beginning of the season, most analysts had the Buffalo Bills as the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. It's not looking that way right now. Call it a curse, call it whatever it is, but the hype is slowly dying. They haven't been able to be consistent offensively. They can't get the run game going effectively. Defensively, they're pretty healthy, but they just have not seemed to have the same impact they had a couple of weeks ago. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde had to be almost like taken off of, out of a press conference because they were upset because the press questioned them, like, what is going on with your secondary? It just seems like there is so many things that are not going right for Buffalo right now that the panic button should have been hit last week, in my opinion.
Yeah, and when they hit the panic button, Matt, what does that entail?
I mean, you're not going to make any changes, but I mean, you're going to have to rally the troops. If you're Sean McDermott, you got to get a hold of your team again. You got to say, like, we are not meeting the expectation. If we do not meet this expectation, there's going to be a natural order of consequence. There's going to be players that who are going to be cut. There's going to be players who are not going to be brought back. There'll have to be changes made because, as we've seen right now, Bill Belichick went out and spent a ton of money on defense and free agency. He's found his quarterback. and that offense it's rolling. The defense is playing phenomenal. They have established themselves back as playoff contenders. As of right now, Super Bowl contenders. I mean, you got to make those changes right now if you're Sean McDermott.
Yeah, Keith, and we've seen it before. All Buffalo has to do is get into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Get this thing going right, get into playoffs. Anybody can get hot and make a run. So do you think this Buffalo team has in it, what it takes to get hot and make a run to the Super Bowl?
This was a Super Bowl favorite, to start off the season. There's a reason for that. They do have the talent. They do have the team. Matt was talking about, we need to have some of that, accountability on the team. Sometimes that has to be inside. One of the things that came to my mind was one of those player-only meetings. You know what I mean? Bring it in and say, okay, guys, we need to change our mindset. We need to change what we're doing. We need to get on the same page. We need to be executing every single time. It's still within our grasp. It was our dreams when we started the season. Let's go out there and get it. Hopefully, they have that leader on the team. I joked a little bit, but Josh Allen seems to be that one of those leaders, and he'd be the perfect guy to be able to step up on the offensive side of the ball or for that team and start that meeting and get them riled and going in the right direction.
Yeah, and you pay that guy a lot of money, and you want him to be your leader, and that's the guy you need to step up and say, hey, guys, let's get this fixed. Let's get it going the right way. Brian Daboll, the OC, has been a hot commodity, in the coaching talks. Do you, Keith, think he's taken a hit with the performance of the team?
Well, I would just say the burner was starting to inch up higher and higher and higher, and it seems like we've either stalled out that how much we were turning up that burner, or we just maybe brought it back a degree or two. I think he'll still be a hot commodity come the end of the season. I think he still has plenty of time. And what he's done over the last two seasons, it should be able to show that. But he does need to, obviously kick it in the pants a little bit if he wants to be one of those top coaching possibilities come this offseason.
Right. And Matt, for you, I mean, what do you think? Do you think this will really affect him when it comes to a new position as a head coach, possibly?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's going to have an impact on him, but I think it's not going to be so much that the opportunities are presenting themselves. I'm just curious to see if those opportunities that, like a Denver, possibly somewhere where it's going to be this whole new overhaul, if that trust is going to be there, like, hey, you started off great, but now it's kind of slowing down. I'm not sure if the opportunity he wants is going to be there. I've been preaching it all year long. I don't think Brian Daboll leaves this season. I don't think it was ever in the cards. I think he's content where he's at. I think they'll pay him more to stay there. They love what he's doing with Josh Allen. And like I said, if the opportunity is not there, similar to Josh McDaniels up in New England, why leave?
Yeah, and that is true. So, I mean, all right, Keith, anybody that is on the hot seat, or maybe has cooled off in the last week or so, like head coaching, that we're thinking, hey, this guy's on the hot seat, he may be out of here. Anybody that you think of, is either their seat has gotten hotter or it's cooled off a little bit?
Boy, I nothing really comes to mind. I mean, other than obviously our situation right here in Denver. I think Fangio is starting to get on that hot seat, but I think he's cooled off a little bit. That's a good position for every Broncos fan to be in, whether you like it or not. We're winning games, and at least one more week, our coaching staff seems to be intact. A loss against the Lions would have been interesting to see exactly what would have happened here in Denver if we would have seen at least an assistant change of any sort, or coaching responsibilities being handed off. So for one more week, we continue. What do you guys see out there?
I mean, I have a couple definitely that are heating up. Matt Rule, he got that massive contract, 10-year contract. Carolina hasn't been able to put it together. You look at Urban Meyer in Jacksonville and all the craziness that keeps coming out of there. It's just like a never-ending TMZ headline that's coming out of the Jacksonville Jaguars camp. That's he's heating up. Possibly Pete Carroll. I mean, I don't know if that's so much it's heating up, or maybe he's just getting close to being done. some of the seats that are cooling down, you definitely want to look at Vic Fangio coming off the win. Each time he gets closer to the playoffs, I think that seat is cooling off significantly. Joe Judge got a huge vote of confidence from the Giants management team, so I don't think he's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. And I would say a lot of people were really cautious on David Culley from Houston. They're saying that he should be a one-year wonder, one and done. But it sounds like this team may be rallying behind not only David Culley, but also Davis Mills. Reports came out that, that if Davis Mills plays well, they will not invest in a quarterback early in the draft. That means that's a pretty big vote of confidence in your quarterback and your head coach, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely is. And Matt mentioned a couple guys I was going to bring up. Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule sort of doused the flames a little bit. He got rid of his scapegoat, in Joe Brady, which everybody thought, well, Joe Brady's going to go back to the NFL or to college football now. Rumors are he wants to stay in the NFL, and there are people that are showing interest in him. So it'll be interesting. And then also Joe Judge, and they got rid of Garrett. So, you're starting to see now where scapegoats are starting to fall, and I think that's one of Fangio's things is Pat Shurmur or someone like that going to be his scapegoat, at the end of the season. So, but if the Broncos go on a run here and win, 3 of the next 4 and make it into the playoffs, is Pat Shurmur safe too? So that's something to be seen. So, all right, let's jump on to another topic. This one came out. And Teddy Bridgewater comes out with this crazy statement that I want, $20 to $25 million a year next year. And when you first hear it, Keith, does it just knock you off your chair? When you first hear that number?
Well, I've been a kind of a Teddy supporter, so it didn't knock me off my chair, but I'm sure it set a few back. I know many of Bronco fans were taken aback by a $25 million a year average salary over a multi-year contract is what I understand him wanting.
Yeah, and I thought when I first heard, I'm like, this guy's out of his mind,
Yeah.
But Matt has, as Matt always does, he's just astutely pointed out that, this is what it is anymore. And here's our 2022 QB salaries of anybody who's going to be under a salary next year that's already under contract. And Teddy would fit right here between Jimmy Garoppolo and Lamar Jackson, right at the middle. And everybody's like, well, he doesn't deserve to be paid like that. But, Matt, he does, doesn't he? I mean, he's putting up middle-of-the-road numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at this list, almost every single player underneath him, aside from Matt Stafford, then Derek Carr, and Tom Brady, are essentially all on their rookie deal still. Every single one of those below him. So you factor in the inflation from 2018, which is where Matt Stafford and Derek Carr both signed their extensions, which when we were talking, they were record-setting numbers. It just keeps going up and up. So this number it's bottom tier money for a bottom tier quarterback.
But these are starters, though.
Yeah, these are all starters.
Is Teddy really a starter next year?
Absolutely. There's not enough quarterbacks to go around. There's not. Look at free agency. It's headlined by Teddy Bridgewater, Tyrod Taylor, and Ben Roethlisberger. That's your free agent quarterback class. You look at the weak quarterback class, the only ones that you can maybe argue should be starting day one are Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett. And I would even have reservations with starting Pickett day one just because it's just been a 1-year rise. And depending on who you are and who you're taking him, you might be just rushing him into a bad situation.
We know these 1-year rises don't work, right, Joe Burrow?
It depends where you go.
Matt.
It depends. It depends where you go, though. Let's say he ends up in Washington with all that chaos and all this craziness. It may not be the best idea to go start Kenny Pickett or even a Matt Corral.
Kenny Pickett's probably going to end up in Detroit.
Where he'll get to sit a year.
I read somewhere today from and we're sort of digressing here and getting off topic.
Oh yeah, but it'll go back. It funnels back in.
Right. I read somewhere today where what an executive in the NFL said if the draft were today, Kenny Pickett would be the number one pick. So that's how high people in the league are thinking of him. So,
I mean, it's really possible, but when you with Thibodeau and with Hutchinson out of Michigan, it's going to be a tough case for number one.
Well, yeah, it depends on who's drafted number one in Detroit.
Exactly.
Detroit's going to need a quarterback.
Well, they have a ton of money tied into Jared Goff, as you can see.
Jared Goff's not the answer. I mean, if you don't,
they're not going to pay him.
I
mean, they can't afford to dump him off. They can't afford to just say, "Hey, here
you
go."
You say there's a quarterback shortage. Somebody may trade for him. Who knows? The Denver Broncos may trade for him.
Don't say those things to me, Dave. but based off of this and based off of the natural inflation of it, this is exactly where he would project. And his agent came out today saying this is what, if he hits the open market, this is what he'll command. It's not 20 to 25 anymore. It's the starting price will be $25 million.
Okay, Keith, let me ask you a question then. If you're George Payton, do you call the bluff and you try to sign him now and try to sign him for maybe between 15 and 20 mil?
I don't think you'll get him for between 15 and 20 mil. I think if you want to try to sign him somewhere between 20 and 25 right now, you have that option. Maybe on the low end of being a $20 million a year annual salary. But if you're looking at a multi-year contract, I'm right there with Matt. I did my own little research right before. In 2021, highest paid quarterback, Patrick Mahomes at $45 million. In 2019, that was Russell Wilson at $35 million. If you go back another 2 years, that was Joe Flacco at $24.5 million. If we keep projecting this way, we're getting about $10 million a year. We're looking at $55 million a year in 2023 and 65 million in 2025. Well, if we're looking at a 2022, 2023, 2024 contract for Teddy, and we're asking $20 to $25 million annually average per year as he's asking for, that 20 to 25 in that last year in 2024 is like way underpaid. Right. So, we can easily take that, and maybe we can go ahead and get that, like you said, wrapped up. But I think I'd wait my options until the end of the season. I wouldn't try to wrap them up right now, right away.
Yeah, because it does hamper your ability to try to go after an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or somebody like that. So, all right, it'll be interesting. Teddy Bridgewater's come out. His camp is already putting the thing out there for everybody to say, hey, if you want us, bring your checkbook.
Well, yeah, because they have everything in their back pocket. They know he is the top rated quarterback in free agency.
And I think New Orleans is going to have to make a decision, between do they want Teddy Bridgewater or do they want Winston? We see Taysom Hills, he's not an everyday quarterback. Could he turn into one under Sean Payton? Maybe, but I don't know. We'll see how things go.
I think he
loves Taysom Hill.
I think that you had kind of.
Oh, go ahead, Keith.
No, go ahead, man.
Oh no, I was just gonna also say I wanted to point something out before we go too far into Taysom Hill. I mean, he does love Taysom Hill, but he's a utility player. Some of these other guys, they're gonna have to make a decision. They're gonna need a legitimate quarterback there, and this is realistically possibly their best option. Just real quick to speak on the inflation really quick. Josh Allen's contract after this season jumps from what he is here to over $40 million in 2023. You got names like Joe Burrow coming up that's going to set a new market. Kyler Murray is going to be setting a new market. This number is chump change. Everyone that's out there, this is bottom tier money. So you're not going to get Taysom Hill to produce as much as Teddy. You're not. It just makes sense. If I'm New Orleans, this is my guy. This is where I got to go.
And just circling back what we were talking about from the very beginning, what's the value of this quarterback? Can he be a starter in next year? Look at what hot backup quarterback is going to be signed to be the starter next year. we used to see that all the time. We used to see, well, Jimmy Garoppolo's on that list and the like, right? People that would say, hey, that guy's the hot guy. We need to get him. We need to go get him. We don't even have backup quarterbacks, I think, in this league that are super hot, unless you're maybe Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers up in Green Bay. I mean, it's pretty weak. So you team that with a kind of a weaker draft class on top of it. All of a sudden, Teddy Bridgewater is a pretty valuable asset in the NFL.
Absolutely. You hit it directly on the nail. And, you're talking Jordan Love. I mean, reports came out, Dan Rusini, ESPN, said that Aaron Rodgers is not going back to Green Bay. So you might as well just plug him up to be the starter in Green Bay. There's going to be teams, if Russell Wilson leaves Seattle, there's an opening. Pittsburgh. So, there's going to be names that are out there. You talk about the second tier backup that may be getting a shot. We have one that's on this team, and his name is Drew Lock. There's going to be a possibility there will be a market for Drew Lock if they get an Aaron Rodgers, if they go a rookie, depending on which way they go. We could very well see Drew Lock be a starter somewhere else next year because of how deprived this quarterback market is.
Okay. All right, really quick, we want to take this opportunity to thank today's sponsor, Willow Seasonings and Blends. They are a big supporter of ours, so please check out their amazing blends that they offer at willowseasonings.com. If you're looking for some stocking stuffer ideas for the cook in your life, look no further. So, all right, let's get on more quarterback talk. We're quarterback heavy, so we did a poll.
Let's get it.
And we said, would you want Kirk Cousins as your QB in Denver? Before we go into the results, I just want a yes or no. Matt, would you want him?
100% yes.
Keith?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's see what the Denver faithful says. Out of 89 votes, 73 said no, we do not want Kirk Cousins as our quarterback. I mean, I think Kirk Cousins gets a bad rap. The guy puts up, top 5, top 10 numbers almost every year. I mean, is it his fault that Minnesota can't win? I mean, so, and what are your thoughts? I mean, are people just looking at this from the surface, Keith, and not really digging into what Kirk Cousins really is?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of Kirk Cousins hate going back to when he finally did end up signing a contract with Minnesota, and it was record-setting. I think it was the first $100 million contract, if I remember correctly, for a NFL QB. A lot of people thought he was overpaid and a lot of guaranteed money in that contract, especially at that time. I think it just some people had a sour taste in their mouth about Kirk Cousins, but you pointed it out, Dave. This is a guy who puts up 4,000 yards if given the opportunity just about every single year. This is a guy that carried his team in Washington, the Washington football team, year after year. That's a guy who played for his contract one season at a time until he was finally earned that contract. And once again, if we pick him up, the contract that he holds currently is not that bad of a deal when you look at what's going forward. So
No, it's not.
I think you have a great opportunity. I gladly took part in the Rocky Mountain Sports Network poll. I was one of the 10 voters in that Facebook poll that said yes.
Same here.
Yeah.
Well, there's your 2 of your 10 right there, man. We were heavily outweighed if it wasn't for the 4th and 99 show putting in their 2 cents.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I even made a comment. I said, I find it hard to believe that there's only 10 intelligent Bronco fans out there.
Well, speaking of comments, I think we put a couple comments in here, right? Maybe did
we did, and we'll go through some. And our buddy Gilbert Cox. I mean, Gilbert always has to throw in Stephen Mont. So I saw this and I said, we got to throw this one out there. So thanks,
right,
Gilbert,
just for
the
you,
humor
Gilbert.
in this type of situation. Cousins is underrated QB. He said if he were under center last Sunday against KC, we would have won that game. You guys
100% agree with this guy. This guy got it.
He understands it.
He understands it.
So, Kenny Kirkpatrick from K&K, this guy's smart. I mean, he talks to us. So, He has to be smart if he talks to us. But, yeah, I mean, he gives us 3 more wins. It probably wins us the AFC West title, you know, in a home game in the playoffs. So,
absolutely.
I mean, this guy says he'd take him. He's just like Derek Carr. Derek Carr's another guy that I would not be upset if he ended up as quarterback of the Denver Broncos. You know, they're not elite guys, but they're second tier, close to top tier, you know,
absolutely.
In my opinion. I mean, what do you think, Matt?
Kirk Cousins. Okay, I'll go into my spiel on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has been a fighter since day one. He got drafted into a toxic situation out in Washington. Mike Shanahan was forced to draft RG3 in the first round. Mike Shanahan said, "Still, I identified my guy that I want." He went in and he got Kirk Cousins later on that draft. I believe 3rd round, if my memory serves me correctly. He battled there. He stayed consistent, said, I deserve a spot on this team constantly. Eventually overthrows the number 2 pick in the NFL draft in Robert Griffin III. He goes on. He continues to play above average in Washington, goes over to Minnesota. He's continuing to put up numbers. John Beelan, a good friend of ours, who also kind of comes on K&K and joins us and talks some football sometimes, brought it up. Top 5 numbers this season. Everyone wants to label him as a Keenum 2.0, but the dude's got the fire, he's got the desire, and he puts up the numbers. He's got talent around him. But you look at Minnesota, it's Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer is a great defensive coach. They're rolling out with a Kubiak style offense, Clint Kubiak's first year, and they're playing great. Unfortunately, they just can't seem to get their mojo to be working. Some days the offense is predictable. Some days it's the defense is falling apart. It's just kind of I think it's more of a coaching situation in Minnesota than it is a quarterback issue in Minnesota. The last part I'll follow up with why I want him here is every win that we get this season means the more likelihood of a Vic Fangio and a Pat Shurmur return. If this team makes the playoffs, I don't believe either one of them will be let go. You know who's going to be a perfect fit for a Pat Shurmur type offense? A guy who can stay in the pocket, make his reads, and does fine in a 3-wide set, and is fine handing the ball off to baby Dalvin Cook over here and Javonte Williams.
Well, and then we would also find out an answer to my other question that I posed to the Facebook group. Did we pick the wrong JJ between Justin Jefferson and Jerry Jeudy? And everybody said, nope, bad quarterback here. Look at who Justin Jefferson has. But then the same people turn around and say, but we don't want Kirk Cousins. So it's sort of confused. So their thinking is if Kirk Cousins comes here, then Jerry Jeudy will be the superstar and Justin Jefferson will just drop off into obscurity. So, but we got this guy here, this Keith Brugman. I mean, this guy's brilliant. Listen to what he says, you know? I mean,
he says, I guess I don't know why Cousins wouldn't be the answer at QB. He's the same age as Wilson. Would Wilson be the 1-year guy as a bridge to a rookie?
Right.
That was after Mr. Slade had, I think, thrown it out there that not even as a bridge as we bring in a rookie.
Right.
You know,
yeah, and because there was somebody on Twitter who made a comment that, well, one, Kirk Cousins doesn't want to be a bridge quarterback, and 2, you know, he doesn't want to be traded. Well, it's not up to him. He doesn't have a no trade clause, for 1, and 2, yeah, I think he has 5 to 7 years left. Honestly, you know, he hasn't had a major injury or anything like that, so. He's fairly healthy. I think if you can keep him healthy, he can be a guy that, you know, can play another 5 to 7 years.
This is why Kirk Cousins is the perfect scenario quarterback. You know, everyone's like pounding the table for Aaron Rodgers. Great. Aaron Rodgers opens up the 3-year window, but you're also looking at a massive trade compensation package. 3 to 4 first-round picks, 2 players, multiple mid-tier picks. It's going to cost a ton to obtain. Kirk Cousins isn't going to cost you the same to obtain. He's not going to cost you the same on your pocketbook. You essentially got a quarterback for a 1-year, $35 million deal. It gives you 1 full year to really assess where you're at. If you find a rookie that you like a Carson Strong or a Desmond Ridder, same in that same area as a Drew Lock, Sam Howell possibly. This gives you that option to still take that quarterback. Does he want to be a bridge? Absolutely not. He comes in here, he plays phenomenally. Then you have the best problem in your hands. You can extend him 2 to 3 years. You get 2 to 3 years of development for this quarterback that's coming out of the draft. It's a win-win situation. This is my top pick for how Denver corrects its quarterback issues, hands down.
I agree, and it doesn't get much airplay, which is amazing. I mean, and maybe Minnesota's not even going to entertain trading him, but you at least have to make the phone call.
I truly think it all depends on what happens with Mike Zimmer moving forward. If they do not make the playoffs and he is not retained, then it's going to be a complete overhaul, and it would be foolish not to believe a quarterback on a 1-year deal would not become available at that point.
Right, because he's at the top of his game, Keith. So what would you give for compensation for a guy like Kirk Cousins?
Oh, boy. Yeah, just right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Boy, would you give 2 firsts for him?
I don't think you would.
A first and a second, maybe a second next year as well. So, I mean,
you got to remember there's a lack of control here. That's the biggest thing when these contracts are weighed out, is how many years of control does the franchise getting the player get. There's only a 1-year deal here.
Correct.
And that's gonna weigh down what his anticipated compensation would be.
I'll just go back to our prior conversation, though. What do you have for backup quarterbacks in the league? What do you have for prospects coming out in this year's draft? For people needing solutions, a guy on a 1-year deal with the possibility of picking up his contract or signing to an extension is worth quite a bit. 2 firsts is probably as high as it would go, maybe a first and a second, like one of you guys said. But I don't think you get away from much lower than that.
I think there is other packages where you could deviate away from a potential first-round pick. I think you could get away with multiple seconds and a player. For example, a Bradley Chubb, it's essentially a wash. You're getting a 1 year for a 1 year. It really just depends on where Minnesota is moving forward and what the market's gonna command. Because there's going to be 3 names if he does become available. There will be 3 names ahead of him via trade, being Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. So it really depends. What do they set the market at? And that could cause the price to go massively inflated as well. So it's really just going to depend on what happens with those big 3 as well.
That's a good question, though, whether Cousins would be more valuable or less valuable than Deshaun Watson in his current situation. I could see him certainly be in the top 3 and maybe even the top 2, competing with Russell Wilson. It's not like Russell Wilson is lighting up the scoreboard and putting a bunch of stats on the board as he's going through this 2021 season, making his claim for being paid a ton of money someplace else next year either.
Absolutely. Right. And the finger is a concern as well for Russell Wilson. The finger is a concern.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're saying that it could be worse than everyone's letting on. And look, over the past 7 years, the fewest touchdowns he has thrown in a season, 25. Yeah. I mean, this is a guy we want. I mean, I'm with Matt. This is my proposed solution. I mean, if I was George Payton, I would definitely be on the phone to Minnesota and say, what do we need to do to make this happen?
Well, you say you're on board with Matt. I say just start the petition. I'm willing to sign there, buddy.
All right, we'll get it going.
Wait, is that a 3-way agreement for the first time ever?
I think we have John Beelan. I think John Beelan's on with it as
4.
As well. So we got 4 people on a petition. So
as soon as we get it signed, we'll send it over to you, John.
Right, definitely. So, all right, hey, really quick, because we're running behind a little bit. Bronco playoff scenario. There's a lot that can happen this weekend.
Yep.
So Broncos are currently sitting in 10th. We can go all the way up to 5, with a little help from our friends. So we would need the Bills to lose, the Chargers to lose, the Browns to lose, and the Colts to lose. Chargers, I could easily see them losing to the Chiefs because the Chiefs are starting to get on a roll. I could see the Browns with their situation. The Colts have the Patriots, so that could easily be a loss for the Colts. So there's 3 teams right there that we need.
And the Bills
who are the Bills playing?
They got to take on Carolina.
So
This is
that's
going to
the
be
one
one
that may be a
that's
little iffy for us. But
if Buffalo wins and those other 3 games fall in Denver's favor, paired with a Denver's win, they hop from where they're at now at 10th to 6th.
which still puts you in playoff position.
Playoffs. Yeah.
You know, and boy, we haven't said playoffs around here in a long time. So
Yeah, like I said, if we get a win next Sunday, I was talking to Matt about this on our wrap-up show. We get a win on Sunday. That's the winningest Vic Fangio Denver Bronco football team.
yeah, definitely.
We've never had 8 wins. We're currently tied for his most wins at 7. A few kickers in there too. If the Titans beat the Steelers and the Packers beat the Ravens, that does help us just a little bit in getting into the playoffs as well. So
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting.
Oh, and if the Broncos beat the Bengals, that also helps.
And that's the big thing. Denver has to take care of their own. You know what they can control.
Yeah.
Go out there. Play the opponent that you have and take care of that, you know, because I think Denver, as much as I've been on the Cincinnati bandwagon, I think Denver can beat Cincinnati, especially with our defense and the way Cincinnati's been up and down. So we'll talk about that more Sunday morning.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's get into some picks, though. Let's talk about the first one that's really going to impact the Broncos. We got the Chiefs at the Chargers. So Chargers have already beat the Chiefs once this year. Can they get the season sweep, Matt?
No. KC's found their groove. They're rolling. The Chargers has kind of been like a roller coaster. They've had a couple guys come off COVID. They're getting a couple guys back from COVID, which will be nice. Austin Eckler got banged up last week. Their defense has been somewhat struggling. I think Kansas City runs away with this one.
Okay, Keith, your thoughts?
Yeah, as much as I'd actually like the Chargers to get on board and you know, start playing some good football, it's always, I hate to say it, but it's always fun to see those guys play some good football. I don't think this is their week, unfortunately. Chiefs are going to be down there, and he's on the COVID list. Star defensive lineman, I forget his name. It's just not
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones. I want to say Chris Long, but I knew that was wrong. So Chris Jones. Chris Jones is going to be out. Might help the running game of the San Diego Chargers.
Well,
busted.
Well, so.
You said San Diego Chargers.
Another dollar.
That's dollar in the jar.
I'm going to get the jar. I'm going to get it prepped. I'll get the dollars in it.
And Austin Eckler is, you know, he's banged up, so we'll have to see how he is in this game too. I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. The Chiefs defense has found a groove.
Yeah.
And that's really the thing that's carrying this team right now is their defense, while this offense tries to figure out their identity. I think getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back is huge for that offense. I mean, I think come playoff time, this Kansas City offense is going to be on a roll. I only see one game that they may lose the rest of the season. That's January 9th.
I like it, buddy.
So.
Oh, wait.
Yes, that one right there.
I was backwards. We're not losing to Coca-Cola. They're losing to the Broncos.
Right. All right. The other game, the next game, Saturday games. We have 2 Saturday games. Let's talk about the first one. Another one that sort of helps us, Raiders and the Browns. Where are you going, Keith?
I think this falls in our favor. We need the Raiders, and I hate to do this, but the Raiders have to beat the Browns for us to actually move up, and it's what we need. So the Browns, unfortunately, just everything that's hit them as far as the COVID-19 is concerned. They're one of the hardest hit teams out there, and obviously when your starting quarterback and your coach look like they're going to be out, that's huge. So I think the Raiders finally get a little bit right here for all the wrong reasons and come out with a win and help out the Denver Broncos.
And Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to ditto a lot of what Keith said. I just think, you know, with the COVID implications, if they're down their head coach, who's also their play caller, and their starting quarterback, I just think that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the Browns. I just don't trust the Raiders. That team is just imploding. We saw Case Keenum. Says Case somebody. Anyway, I mean,
Keesum.
And if the Browns have their running game going, I mean, so that's what they need. But Jarvis Landry may be out too. I don't know if Jarvis Landry's injured or if he's on the COVID list. I haven't seen the full COVID list, so I'm just taking a shot in the dark right here, and I'm going to go with the Browns.
I believe they might be down Kareem Hunt as well. So that run game you were talking about, maybe down one of their guys.
You only need Chubb. The good Chubb.
Nick Chubb has been beat up too this season, though. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, he has. I mean,
it's really going to be a tough one. It's a toss-up. I think it's a coin flip.
I remember when the Denver Broncos came into Cleveland and they had no running backs. Never mind.
Right. So what was that guy's name?
Dearness Johnson.
Yeah, that guy. Maybe he'll do some running. All right, last one for Saturday. Patriots, Colts. Another one that impacts us. Matt, who you got? Patriots, Colts.
We talk about the Chiefs finding their groove right now. I don't think there's a hotter team in the NFL than the New England Patriots. As much as that pains me to say, I don't like Carson Wentz as a quarterback. I don't care for the Colts. I don't think their offense is as great as everyone makes it sound. New England's defense is playing phenomenal. Mac Jones does just enough to win you a game, and sometimes. Patriots take this one, and I don't think it's going to be close.
Keith?
I like Carson Wentz. I like what the Colts do on offense, and I think this is going to be a fantastic game. But unfortunately, they're going up against the Patriots, and Patriots are the hottest thing out there. So, once again, in our favor, let's be rooting on the Patriots. I guess.
I can't let my wife ever let me say that. She will never let me live it down.
And I'm with Keith. I like Carson Wentz. I've always liked Carson Wentz. I mean, I like what Buffalo's doing. I mean, Indianapolis, not Buffalo. I like what they're doing, but I'm going to agree. It's the Patriots, and the Patriots are they're very good right now. They're playing very efficient football. So looks like we got a three-way sweep on this one. We got a three-way sweep on tomorrow night's game. The only one we don't agree on is the Raiders and the Browns, and I'm the black sheep going with the Browns.
All right. Well, good luck to you. Maybe you can catch up a little bit on the sheet. I know I did not catch up. I will have an update on Sunday.
Yes,
I did not do myself any favors on the pick'em. I can let anybody know that right now. Quit following any of my advice. Don't go to Vegas based on any of my pick'ems. Maybe just go the opposite. Anyway, hopefully you get a little bit of help with the Browns, buddy.
Yeah. All right.
I'm excited to see those new standings.
Yeah. Parting shots, Matt, really quick.
Teddy Bridgewater is going to get the $25 million. I know there's people that are saying that's not going to happen, but it will happen. And I think he may be able to connive a little bit more.
Wow. Closer to 30, huh, Matt?
I'm going to say about 28.5.
Jeez. Keith, anything?
Boy, after that heart stopper right there. For me, it's just really we need to see what happens with this COVID-19 and what the NFL Players Association and what the owners' meetings that are currently happening kind of comes out to see. I think there could be a few changes moving forward. I'm not exactly sure what that could be. Daily testing could be a quick one. I think they could be easily implemented for the NFL and the players and the safety, but look for some changes in the next few days, I would say. It may not be substantial, but could make an impact on what we see in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say, Bronco players, please stay healthy. Stay away from people you don't know. Let's not get any COVID cases. We got a big run coming up, with the next 4 weeks. And it all starts Sunday with the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, everybody. That's it for today. Thanks for joining us. And we will be back Sunday for the Denver Bronco pregame show at 9 a.m. Sunday, December 19th. Please follow us, like, and subscribe. We're on social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Go over there, like, and subscribe there. You can also chat with Matt, Keith, or myself through our Twitter accounts. And join our group on Facebook or Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We do a lot of posting and chatting over there besides just football. We got hockey, we got basketball, we got everything else going on. We're actually looking for somebody to do some lacrosse coverage. And 4th&99 podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and we're working on getting this out on many more platforms for your listening enjoyment. But as always, you can join us live here and be a part of the conversation. Again, we wanted to thank our sponsor, Willow Seasonings. Without them, none of this would be possible. We thank you all. Everybody have a good night, and we will see you on Sunday.